Well, greetings, Pastor Eric from Zion Lutheran Church in beautiful Redmond. We're on day 29, winding down these 40 days with Take 10 with John. And today we join Jesus and his disciples after the resurrection on the beach. John 21, verses 1 through 11. Let me read those words to you. After this, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. After he showed himself in this way: gathered together were Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, and the sons of Zebedee, and two others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I'm going fishing." And they said to him, "We'll go with you." Okay? They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, you have no fish, have you?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." So they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because there were so many fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It's the Lord." And when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and jumped into the sea. Normally you do the opposite, but Peter put on the clothes, jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came into the boat, dragged the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, about 100 yards off. When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have just caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled a net ashore full of large fish, 153 of them, and though there were so many, the net was not torn. Such a fascinating story, full of little kind of details that John kind of throws in theologically to make his points about Jesus, so that these words are written that you might believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and that believing in him you might have life in his name. So here it is, John chapter 21, chapter that Jesus appears to his disciples on the beach after he had been raised from the dead. And think about the disciples. They were just lost. They were floundering. Jesus had been crucified, and even though they had seen him in the upper room, where Jesus showed them his hands and his feet, like we talked about yesterday, they still weren't sure what it meant. They were befuddled and bewildered. They were just a little bit disoriented. So Peter says to the other disciples, "I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to go fishing." I mean, think about that. Jesus had just been raised from the dead to conquer sin, death, and the power of the devil, and Peter says, "I'm going to go fishing." When Jesus was with them, he told Peter, James, and John, "I'm going to make you not fish for fish, but fish for people." And now, after Jesus was resurrected, they were bewildered, befuddled, they were disoriented. And so Peter says, "I'm going to go fishing." You know, it's an insight into human nature here, because when you experience a crisis of meaning and purpose, of whatever it might be, you return to what's safe. Peter wanted to go back to fishing because that's what he knew in the pre-Jesus days. It's what he left to follow Jesus. And when he said, "I'm going to go fishing," 6 of the other disciples said, "Okay, hey, don't leave without us. We're going to go with you." They were in the same boat of disorientation, and in their disorientation, they made a huge discovery, the most important moment really in their lives. So they went out in the boat and went back to what their lives were like before they knew Jesus, and they caught nothing. They were experienced fishermen going back to what their lives were like before Jesus, going back to the way things were, and they had no success. They went back to the familiar, trying to discover something new about life that worked, and it didn't work. They caught nothing. So early in the next morning, Jesus stood on the beach where the disciples were fishing. They had caught nothing, but they didn't recognize that it was Jesus. So Jesus says, "Hey, have you caught anything?" And they said, "Nah, no." So he said, "Cast your nets on the other side of the boat." And They had been fishing at night where the fish were. This was the morning, and you don't catch fish in the morning, but they said, okay. So they cast it on the other side of the boat and pulled in a whole slew of fish. What they did is they trusted Jesus. They went back to what life was like before Jesus. It didn't work. They heard, even though they didn't know it, they heard the words of Jesus on the beach. They loved him and they trusted him, and their lives were filled to overflowing. So what happens is when they caught the great big load of fish, they brought it ashore. Do you remember how many fish there were? 153 of them. Why would John mention 153? Well, commentators have a different interpretation on the number 153. Some commentators don't even make reference to it. They think, well, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just kind of a random number. Some commentators say that Jerome, the early church father, wrote that Greek zoologists at that time had identified 153 different species of fish, symbolizing the totality and the range of the disciples' catch, that they caught every single species kind of fish. Other commentators mention Augustine, who wrote that there's a mathematical interpretation to the number 53, because if you count up 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, add up 1, 2, 3, 4, up to the number 17, you get 153. And the number 17 represents the numerical number of perfection. The numbers 10 and 7. 10 and 7 were symbolically perfect and full numbers, so you add up 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 up to 17 and you get 153. So 153 fish means full and complete. The disciples caught 153 fish when they listened to Jesus and trusted him. The proven results in their lives of catching every kind of conceivable fish represents the rut that they were getting out of in their lives when they truly followed Jesus and trusted him. Their nets were full to overflowing. They brought in the number of completeness, wholeness, meaning, and purpose, 153, which means 153 of the importance of sharing the gospel with all kinds of people, all kinds of different people, wherever you are, however you can. I mentioned these before. Last Monday or Tuesday, and please pick a couple of these up. This book is alive. It's the Gospel of John. I talked to you a little bit about it before. It has a welcome from me about the book itself. It has our Zion information on the back, and on the way back there's Zion too. We're going to roll this out to the congregation in the beginning part of June. But before that, these are provided for you. The rest of the congregation gets it with my business card, call it business, stapled at the back, but not the greeting. So they're a different kind. But these are for you and for the women's group. Please pick up 3. Pick up 1 for yourself. Pick up 2 to share. You never know when it might be that it's time to share Jesus with the 153 number of fullness and completeness and totality people. Right now, you are one of the most knowledgeable people in the Gospel of John in the congregation. I would love for you to share this with somebody. So, tomorrow's day 40, and we end our time with Take 10 with John. I look forward to seeing you then. You take care. Bye-bye.